Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Comic-Con is in full swing downtown as Hollywood makes a grand return. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. It is a shift from the scaled-down version that we saw last year because of the actors and writers' strikes. And KPBS reporter Alexander Wynn is live at Comic-Con. Alex, how are the fans reacting to Hollywood being back this year?
Well, Maya, we talked to fans from all over the world, and they're excited to see their favorite Hollywood stars at this year's Comic-Con, from Chris Hemsworth to Walker Scobell to Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. And of course, we were able to see the Hall H at this year's Comic-Con, and you can certainly feel the excitement. Take a look. Hollywood is back in a big way. These fans got a sneak peek at the new Transformers movie releasing in September. It stars Chris Hemsworth and Brian Tyree Henry. Maggie Marion came from Mexico to see Hemsworth in person.
Stories and little adventures in the backyard.
He's playing the voice of Optimus Prime in the movie.
She was there last year, but felt something was missing.
Definitely the star power is one of those things. On the main convention floor, Marcel Rowe from Vancouver misses last year's vibe.
It was a little bit special. You know, it kind of went back to its roots.
He says the crowds and the energy is back to its pre-pandemic level. For artists, Hollywood being back could be a mixed blessing.
You can get lost, but you can stand out very easily in the crowd.
Local artist Patrick Ballesteros already has a strong following, so he says it doesn't really affect him. But for new artists, it can.
As an artist starting out, your talents are going to be shown and displayed. There's art directors, there's other artists, there's people looking for, I want to hire someone.
Oh, back here live, Comic-Con is still going strong at this hour, but many attendees are starting to make their way to the Gaslamp quarters for the many after parties happening this evening. Maya?
Alex, it looks like a lot of fun, but with Hollywood being back, are the organizers doing anything different with the panels?
Yes, definitely. The most anticipated panel is the Deadpool and Wolverine panel this evening with Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. Organizers are clearing out the hall before the panel because it's a ticketed event. It's an experiment, and they're hoping to probably do this again in the future, but they don't know just quite yet. So we'll actually definitely monitoring that. For now, live in downtown San Diego, Alexander Wynn, KPBS News.
Thanks so much for that, Alex. And we have more Comic-Con coverage coming up. Meet a local creator who blends art with fandom to bring characters to life.
It's been pretty steamy out there. We have had also some lightning-sparked wildfires, even involving evacuations in some parts of San Diego County over the past 24 hours or so. We're tracking a couple of large fires up in Northern California and also in parts of Oregon, too. But overnight tonight, we're going to begin to see temperatures just slightly begin to back off down to around 70 in San Diego, upper 60s at Mount Laguna. The heat alerts, excessive heat warnings, heat advisories will be ending this evening. Details ahead.
Fire crews are working to contain a wildfire near Palomar Mountain. It started yesterday afternoon in the Sunshine Summit area and exploded to 900 acres overnight. The fire is 10% contained, according to CAL FIRE's latest update. 2 firefighters suffered minor injuries while fighting the fire. CAL FIRE investigators believe a lightning strike may have sparked the flames. There is an estimated 180,000 people in California experiencing homelessness on any given night. That's according to an executive order Governor Gavin Newsom issued today, telling state agencies to clear all homeless encampments statewide. KPBS health reporter Heidi DeMarco says the order follows a Supreme Court ruling allowing cities to ban sleeping in public spaces.
Tents and makeshift shelters line city streets, parks, and freeway underpasses in San Diego County. Governor Gavin Newsom's new order intends to clear them.
It's time to move with urgency at the local level to clean up these sites, to focus on public health and focus on public safety.
He says there's $3.3 billion in state grant money to support cities. Joanne Stanley is Executive Director of Housing for the Homeless. She says this isn't a solution, it's creating another problem.
We're already at the point where we have people living in very dangerous places. They're hiding out, they're trying to be safe somewhere. You're going to have a lot more deaths.
A recent Rand Corporation study found that dismantling encampments cleaned up the area temporarily, but had little long-term impact on the city's homeless population. John Brady is formerly homeless. He says people are just being shuffled around the county. Brady says San Diego's recent encampment ban proves this.
Since we focused most of the resources to make it illegal to live in the downtown core of our city, Lemon Grove is up in arms because they went from like 20, 30 people to over 300 in the latest count. This is what we're doing. We are whack-a-moling people to death.
San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria issued a statement welcoming Newsom's sense of urgency. For now, it's unclear how the order will be enforced or if there will be penalties for cities and counties that don't clear homeless camps. Heidi DeMarco, KPBS News.
A vote on the proposed 30-year lease to transform a commercial building in Middletown into a massive homeless shelter will now wait until at least September. On Monday, San Diego City Council voted to bring the topic back for discussion next week. But Mayor Todd Gloria announced today that he would take more time to refine the proposal for the 1,000-bed shelter. Under the tentative lease, rent would cost $1.95 per square foot, with annual 3.5% increases. State and local leaders are continuing their calls for the federal government to move nuclear waste away from the San Onofre Nuclear Power Plant. KPBS reporter Katie Anastas says they're considering a state resolution to increase pressure.
It's a landmark most Southern Californians have seen while driving up and down the coast. The San Onofre Nuclear Generating Station was shut down in 2013 after a radioactive steam leak. More than 3.5 million pounds of nuclear waste is still stored there. It's in steel canisters surrounded by concrete. Lawmakers and experts gathered at UC San Diego on Wednesday to discuss risks and solutions for that storage.
If the state of California had a plan, and if the state of California became an advocate for the safety of the people of the state of California, an advocate at the federal level, things would start to happen.
The California Department of Public Health reports on radiation levels at the site. The plant's owner, Southern California Edison, says it closely monitors the safety of the storage containers, along with coastal erosion and sea level rise. Edison also wants to see the federal government move the spent nuclear fuel. Manuel Camargo is the company's principal manager for strategic planning. He says a federal law required the Department of Energy to start accepting nuclear waste by 1998, but it didn't happen. Utilities sued the department and won.
As a result, all taxpayers in the U.S., whether you ever received a kilowatt of nuclear power or not, are now having to pay for this on-site storage that we're doing that you never should have had to implement.
The department is looking for places to temporarily store nuclear waste from dozens of plants across the country. Congressman Mike Levin has introduced legislation to prioritize fuel removal from plants near large population centers and active fault lines like San Onofre. Now, 2 Southern California lawmakers have introduced a resolution to urge the federal government to take action.
This resolution is not here to debate the merits of nuclear energy. It is simply a tool to show the federal government that the world's fifth largest economy is ready for them to start acting and do the job that they have been neglecting for over 2 decades.
The full assembly can take it up for a vote when the legislative session resumes next month. Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
Fans of Comic-Con who didn't get a ticket may want to head to ChicanoCon this weekend at Border X Brewing. It includes a panel discussion with Latinx creatives who are breaking barriers. KPBS South Bay engagement producer Maria Elena Castellanos has a preview.
Now I'm actually, in the LA Times anyway, I'm the first comic strip.
One of the big names attending ChicanoCon this weekend is Lalo Alcaraz. He produced the recently released animated film, The Casa Grande's Movie. He's also known for his nationally syndicated daily comic strip, La Cucaracha. He says he's driven by the need to speak up against racism and injustice.
I mean, it's on us to defend people that can't defend themselves. So, immigrants are under attack again. Always. It hasn't stopped. So, I mean, a lot of my work is that. And then, stepping up for other people that can't speak or, defend themselves or whatever.
Jorge Gutierrez, the director of the animated blockbuster hit The Book of Life, is also heading to ChicanoCon. He says he is hopeful about the future of Latinx content and audiences can help.
We're in a good time, but our people have to speak with their wallet and support. So, take a chance. Just like you take a chance on a movie you're not sure about. Take a chance on a movie you're not sure about Latino culture, Latino directors, and Latino actors. Take a chance. Don't wait.
Someone else who would like to see more Latinx content is David Favela, the owner of Border X Brewing. He said he started ChicanoCon several years ago after noticing how hard it was to get a ticket to go to Comic-Con.
So I said, why not host it, a version of it here in Barrio Logan, because we're so close, and make it about the kids and bring a little bit of that cosplay, comic book, fantasy, magic to the barrio.
Alcaraz and Gutierrez plan to share more at ChicanoCon set for Saturday evening at Border X Brewing in Barrio Logan. Maria Elena Castellanos, KPBS News.
Over the years, the comic book industry has evolved into a multi-billion-dollar industry. KPBS video journalist Matthew Bowler tells us one new way the industry is adapting to San Diego's changing demographics.
May, you have to believe me. I do, Peter. That's the problem. I'll always believe in you.
Simple joy of reading a comic book is a window to so much more. The global industry is valued at more than $14 billion, with a B, and it's expected to grow.
Wondering if you had a second to go over by a statement from the McCarthy Medical Center.
Just like the stories, its readers have evolved over the years.
No idea what you're talking about, Mr. Parker. Felicidad, sí, ya la ha perdido.
Census data show that more than 20% of the people in San Diego speak Spanish. Chula Vista, that number's closer to 50. Yet, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to find comic books in Spanish on this side of the border.
When we first opened about 5 years ago, we would get a lot of requests for folks for comics in Spanish, and it was almost impossible for us to order anything.
That's Aaron Treitz, owner of Now or Never Comics in downtown.
Historically, comics have been dominated by straight white men. And that is changing in terms of the creators, that's changing in terms of the characters, that's changing in terms of the audience.
Treitz says that many Spanish readers are told that the Spanish language versions of their favorite stories don't exist. But if you can cross the border, you can find them.
Some of those books do exist, and we're seeing a lot of those come up from south of the border.
Naomi Cortez is the manager of Utopia Comics in Tijuana. She says they can get readers the comics they want, like Avengers, Batman, Superman, and Spider-Man.
Son varios, pero los de los últimos tiempos viene siendo la saga del infinito de Avengers, Killing Joke, el Batman que ríe, unos cuantos de Superman y Spider-Man.
Back in San Diego, Trite says he thinks he knows why it's difficult to access Spanish titles in the United States.
I would imagine it's largely a business decision. Those books are available, and those books are available within spitting distance of us. It would be amazing if we at least had the option to order it.
Whenever Trites can, he orders Spanish language comics.
And the few copies that we ordered, flew out of the shop immediately. And then we went back to reorder them and found that they weren't available in the system any longer.
Diamond Comic Distributors is the one-stop shop for store owners to order comic books. While they weren't available for an interview, they said in an email, "We are currently working with Panini to offer Marvel collections in Spanish. The first batch will be available in August." That's a sign of where the industry is going, according to Trites.
I'm comforted feeling that comics are moving in the right direction.
Mis ideas son relevantes.
That there's an awareness at all of these different audiences. They could absolutely be doing more to support those audiences, but it's wildly different, significantly better than it was even 10, 20 years ago. So
No puede aspirar.
we're moving in the right direction.
Vaya que está orienta continuar.
Matthew Bowler, KPBS News.
And we are covering all things Comic-Con, and Evening Edition will be live downtown in the middle of it all tomorrow. You can find our convention coverage at kpbs.org. Just click the Comic-Con banner on our homepage. Sometimes the best made plans just don't work out, at least not the way that it was intended. Ken Kramer has been sharing some of his stories about San Diego, and he tells us now about how an historic failure turned into a lasting success.
Here's a railroad spike. It's like a big nail that holds railroad track tightly in place. You pound that spike into wooden railroad ties. The ties, of course, are those cross pieces of timber that support the rail. And imagine you're building the great railroads coming west a century ago. You're going to need a lot of ties, about 3,000 of them for every mile. And to do that, you need forests and forests of trees. Enter Mr. Walter E. Hodges of the Santa Fe Railroad, who looked at an area north and east of Del Mar more than a century ago and said, aha, how about we plant our own forest just for the Santa Fe Railroad? See, our own forest, and on this land we will grow eucalyptus trees. 3,000 acres, 3.3 million trees. It was an astonishing agricultural experiment by Mr. Hodges and the Santa Fe Railroad, and you know what? It didn't work. Oh, I don't mean the trees didn't grow. Just look around that area today and there are eucalyptus by the thousands. Yes, they did grow, but what the wood didn't do was hold a railroad spike. Not enough moisture, the wood split, warped, and it just wasn't right for the job. So now the Santa Fe Railroad figures it has to sell. But a land developer, Ed Fletcher, tells them, no, not so fast. Think about how you could grow things on this land and build orchards and homes and beautiful big estates, and the railroad would make money anyway, even though the eucalyptus experiment thing didn't work out. And so it was that this community was born, and how it came to be called Rancho Santa Fe. And as for Mr. Walter Hodges, well, all that new agriculture and development here and on downstream would need water, of course. And so on behalf of the Santa Fe Land Improvement Company, he laid the groundwork for a water project that would later come to be known as Lake Hodges. Interesting how things tie together when you know the story about San Diego.
Yeah, you gotta love that. And if you want to see more of Ken's stories about San Diego, you could watch an entire episode tonight at 8 o'clock right here on KPBS.
Well, we've had a lot of heat out there lately, especially across the interior, but there have also been some thunderstorms, especially over the high ground of interior San Diego County. The spotty thunderstorms bring some rainfall, which is a welcome thing, but also the lightning has been the cause of at least a couple of wildfires in Southern California over the past 24 hours, one of which involves some evacuations. So that's been a concern on the negative side. Thunderstorm risk will be fading, though, and we're going to be watching cooler air roll back in. So the cool down is beginning. as we step over through the next few days. Tonight we'll get down to 70, low clouds near the coast in the metro area. We bounce back up to 79 in San Diego on Friday afternoon. We don't expect to see as much of a chance of a stray thunderstorm tomorrow. We expect the moisture to generally stay away to the east. Borrego Springs still hot, still 112 degrees out there. But you'll notice future radar, it shows generally an eastward shift here for the moisture as we get deeper into the night. Tomorrow afternoon, here we go into Friday, most of the convection, at least in this particular model product, is going to keep all the action to the east. And the weekend forecast looks more pleasant. Still warm, but not as hot as it has been, with nicer air and also a little ventilation to improve the air quality concerns off to the north with some of that smoke in the interior west and the northwest. The heat's going to gradually be shifting into the plains, and by Tuesday and Wednesday, some areas into areas around, say, eastern Colorado and Kansas and northwest Texas, they'll be flirting with some record highs by Tuesday and Wednesday. For the coastal areas, you can see temperatures back off slightly. In fact, mid-70s are expected highs by Tuesday. That'll be a nice change. Inland areas still hot on Friday, but we're watching improvements take over. And as we step ahead to Monday, we're going to be about 7 degrees cooler. Into the mountains we go, backing from the upper 70s back to the low 70s, mid 70s at least, and that looks good. And into the deserts, again, we have some big time heat still holding for another day, 112 degrees, but we'll back down to around 107 in the deserts by Monday. And by the way, early August, we do expect to see the pattern shift with increasing moisture returning, and eventually the chance for spotty thunderstorms will also resume in San Diego County, especially in the mountains. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Jeff Cornish for KPBS News.
Abrams to right field. Johnson coming in. He makes the catch. No hits for the Nats. Dylan Cease throws a no-hitter. The second no-hitter in Padres history. There'll be a sea of San Diegans celebrating back home today.
And there it is. What a call from Padres play-by-play announcer Don Orsillo. The Padres beat the Washington Nationals with a no-hitter by pitcher Dylan Cease. It's their 5th straight win, capping a series sweep in D.C. It's the first no-hitter for Cease, and as you just heard, the second in team history after Joe Musgrove in 2021. Congratulations. Adam Chiron Murillo's journey into cosplay began with a childhood passion for movies and Halloween, and then over the years it evolved into crafting elaborate costumes and props inspired by horror, sci-fi, and superhero genres. As KPBS video journalist Carlos Castillo shows us, cosplay isn't just a hobby for Adam. It's a lifelong dedication to blending artistry with fandom.
My whole thing is bringing, Hollywood quality special effects to San Diego. I've always been into movies and, special effects and stuff like that since I was a kid. Kind of having that curiosity and wanting to learn how to do things. I kind of was introduced to the whole Comic-Con scene, say 5 years ago now. Not only is that for me Halloween all year, but also it's right up my alley of being able to build things for people. He's got little teeth and everything. The penguin, I think, was the first time that I dressed up at Comic-Con. As soon as I got it on, people just started oh, hey, can I take a picture? Awesome costume, this and that, and it just, the walls kind of came down, and it's okay, this is cool, I'm in the right place. After that, I'm okay, I automatically started thinking, okay, what's the next convention? What costumes am I gonna take? You want to make the costume out of quality materials, but also you want to think about breathability, trying to make it light. You'll see cosplayers, make stuff out of Eva foam, which is basically gym floor mats. Each time is it presents a different challenge, and when you're working with materials like latex and silicone, sometimes temperature really plays a part in it. I mean, these materials aren't cheap. For example, this Aquaman costume right here, we got bracers, for the arms. We got, custom shoes. I mean, something like this would, can be anywhere between $1,500 to $3,500. I really like, making things look realistic, and you know, like this has got this will have like a little bit more blood that goes over it that gets added after. This is a stone mold, and you pour the latex in there, and you just pop these things out, paint them, and there you have it. You got a bullet hit. This is actually the shell of the plaster shell that goes over the clay mold, and then latex gets poured inside of that. This is what came out of this guy right here. I've made props like, you know, from mannequins to like, you know, full-on guns that were, you know, this is made out of PVC and wood, and you know, there's no 3D printing at all on this. But now you can 3D print this whole thing, this power helmet right here. This is from Fallout. This is completely 3D printed. And these are the ones that make the magic happen. And those are the airbrushes. You know, this is just like tan material, and I use the airbrush to kind of accentuate all like the little lines and stuff like that. I made it to where the mouth is able to open and close. So the Groot was interesting because it's a stilted costume, but it's not on stilts, it's actually on styrofoam blocks. So it's almost like you're walking on a 5-gallon bucket. Just threw it all together, painted it up with like house paint, whatever I can use. It was really rudimentary. And then I took it to Comic-Con, and it was a big hit. I took a bunch of pictures and got a bunch of cool footage, and yeah, a lot of smiles. It's all fun stuff, you know, you learn new things with everything. So just from using the stuff that we have here, the foam, the fiberglass, the latex, you know, and all that stuff, I mean, we can basically make anything that you can think of.
So much talent, and speaking of talent, that story was produced by KPBS video journalist Carlos Castillo. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.